as well.
I was a member of the Anti-Muslim Hate Crime Advisory Group, which the previous government had set up. And we had asked on a number of occasions to meet with the Society of Editors. The Society of Editors, which, editors of all the public, the print media, are very influential. And we asked on a number of occasions to have a meeting with them. But they were just not interested in meeting us, right, the group. And Sayyid Awasi was chair for a while, Baroness Sayyid Awasi, then it was Lord Tariq Ahmed, and the group had asked for a meeting with the society editors to try and tell them about the impact, the negative impact it's having on community relations, community tension within the country as well. But they just don't seem to be interested. So moving away from them, as you said, we have seen over the last 30, 40, 50, actually 70 years or so, that certain lobby groups have really built up a power base. And that is mainly driven by money.
Yeah.
Financially.
We don't have lobby groups, Iqbal Bhai, in the Muslim community. There's no lobbyist group in Muslim community at all.
Because the lobby groups are supported by businesses.
Yeah, billionaires.
You look at all these lobby groups.
Where are our billionaires? That's my question to our billionaires. What
even
they're
the
doing.
millionaires.
Even the millionaires.
Where are the Muslim millionaires?
So that's an issue for us. We can't criticize other communities. They're doing very well. They want to influence, and they use any strategy they can, whether it's a financial strategy, whether it's a power strategy, whatever, or political strategy. They'll do that, and they are doing that. We have to look at it internally ourselves. Where's our millionaires who are supposed to be influencing? Where are our member of parliament who's supposed to be influencing? If you can't influence, then don't get involved in those areas. This has been the biggest issue.
How do you get accountability? I mean, look at the number of members of parliament within the Labour Party, for example. Yet, Keir Starmer seems to be oblivious to what is happening at the moment. He's much more focused on the tariffs, although that is important, there's no doubt about it, because thousands of jobs in the United Kingdom depend on what happens with these tariffs, etc.
Of course.
And thousands of people of all colour, all races, could lose their jobs. But how, people like Afzal Khan, who you know very, very well, one of the most senior members of parliament, right, in the Labour Party. How do people like them, who hold a senior position, Naz Shah now, obviously has been in parliament for quite a while, how can the community sort of pursue them and ask them about how are they, or why are they not able to change the policies or the directions of the political party?
Yeah. No one or two MPs can change the policy. But what the one or two MPs can do is they can build alliances with the other MPs. So my advice to Afzal Bhai, if I can give any advice to and Sister Naz Shah would be, is that they need to build alliances with the other non-Muslim MPs. That's their position, that's their job for their constituents and for themselves. Do the right thing on moral issues. And they have made some statements. Afzal Bhai makes some statements in members of parliament and so forth. But he will not be able to make a policy change on his own. There's got to be a different strategic approach from our MPs. That means, first of all, they've collectively got to come together. Whether you're in the Labour Party or whether you're in the Conservative Party or you're Liberal Democrat.
Let's just focus on the Labour Party. If there's a number of Muslim MPs who are members of the Labour Party. I think maybe there might be about 15 of them. These 15 people, if they came together collectively and went to see Keir Starmer and said, look, we are concerned about this, right? Do you think that would have an influence on Keir Starmer? Because at the moment it seems like they're all working for themselves and not the wider community.
I personally think the way the politics work, it would definitely have an impact on Keir Starmer. And just imagine if they could then bring Keir Starmer to have a dialogue with the Muslim community, in the sense of it, not shouting match, but have a constructive dialogue to increase the understanding, and also for Keir to understand the passion for fairness and justice, not just for Palestine, but in general, for them as British citizens and the others as well. I don't think we ever have a dialogue with our Prime Minister as a Muslim community. I can't remember the last time, in Manchester, Greater Manchester, Keir Starmer came in to see and spoke with the Muslim community and have an intellectual debate at the issues that are affected by the Muslim community. Now, MPs can do that. They can be the bridge between the Muslim community, whatever colour the support they have in political parties, and with the Prime Minister. That is lacking. That's one action that I think would be very welcome by the Muslim community, you know, whoever does that. And I think the Conservative Party, the MPs in that party, should do the same when the Conservatives were in charge. That never hardly happened. The only thing that happened was that the elite met the elite, but they never met the grassroots, what's going on. And that is a danger where you are only meeting a certain people. So Keir Starmer meets a certain people, of group of people, who tell him what he wants to hear. So he goes back and he doesn't really get a fuller picture.
No, I mean, that is nature of politics. It's like, you know, they will only go to people that they are comfortable with, or they feel they're comfortable with. They're not going to go and talk to people who they know that they're going to be criticized, particularly in the public arena.
Well, actually, people like Tony and Ben and all those others, they weren't afraid of it.
Tony Benn was completely
Are you with me?
Yeah.
They weren't afraid of it.
Yeah.
And a good politician isn't about meeting your friends and just listening to your friends. A good politician is about actually listening to critical voice of the people because they want their votes. Otherwise, how do you convince people who do not vote for you if you don't hear their voices? If they are quite comfortable in talking to the right-wing organizations and people who hate us, are you with me, the racist in there, and saying, oh, well, immigration is a big issue. And I'm not even convinced that immigration is the biggest issue that's facing Great Britain. But it's made into a big issue. You know,
like
politicians make into a big issue. Our mainstream media makes into a big issue. But I work and live with white people all the time, and nobody has ever said to me, immigration is a big issue. And yet, if you turn on the television, the only thing that you hear is about immigration. So if they can listen to the voices of the minority of the white British citizens, surely they can also listen to the opposite direction of other Muslims who are maybe critical of Conservatives or Labour.
Is that where you feel that the Muslim community in particular, which is the largest minority group in this country, have not really got their act together in terms of what you said earlier, which is the media, portraying the value of the Muslim community to the United Kingdom? Because there was a report, for example, in Ramadan, that 1.6 billion pounds worth of charity and aid goes
every year. Every year we are we raise more charitable funds than any other group within Great Britain. But yet you never hear that anywhere in the world. So we have a long way to go yet. And I would love my community, the British community and the Muslim community, basically to focus on three things. That is peacefully lobbying the politics, the politicians to do the right thing. You're not asking them to do anything. You're asking them to, for example, you're asking them to stop the genocide. You're asking them to stop the funding to a nation that's actually committing a crime. You're not asking for any favors. They have to do that. They can't remain silent with that. Secondly, you're asking them basically look at the most disadvantaged people in Britain and let's help them. Work with the Muslim community so the Muslim community can help the homeless. They can help the other people. They can help the most vulnerable, our elders and the others. They can play a very important part in that. The third thing that the Muslim community, second thing that they've got to do is actually to work in policy. They've got to understand policy, not just politics. And then the third one, which is a key one, is the media. How do we engage with the mainstream media proactively? I'm not saying anything about we go with all sorts of insults or in anger or anything. That we need to have an intelligent debate in those three areas. And we need the help of our millionaires to push for that. Because if our millionaires don't come forward for the community, then they won't be millionaires in the future, because they're not going to look at, oh, he's rich, so therefore I'll leave him alone. Because there were rich people in Gaza, there were rich people in Palestine, but there's no rich anymore.
Rich people in Germany.
There were rich people in India who were Muslims, but they're not rich anymore.
Yes, yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yes. I mean, the Jewish community was very wealthy in Germany.
Jewish community was very wealthy, doing very well, and that look what happened when Hitler came up. Are you with me in a sense on it? So we can learn from the Jewish community and what they went through, and make sure that this never happens again. And it is happening, sadly.
Unfortunately, yeah, it is happening. I mean, a lot of people have described what is happening in Gaza as a genocide. Our government has refused to accept that term in the majority of cases. They've never acknowledged the word genocide is taking place.
I think it's got to a stage, Iqbal, by people will see and they will refer what they see, and what they see is genocide. It doesn't matter what the government says and what the government thinks. People are not stupid. The most intelligent people will look at what's happening, starvation of children. So the terminology is another form of keeping the people who are going through unfairness and unjust to keep them down. So in a free country, you should be allowed to say, if you see something happening like that and you think it's genocide, you should be allowed to say it's genocide.
Yes, exactly.
So why aren't you allowed to say that? Because you can't have it both ways. You can't say we're a democratic country, we're a fair, just country for human rights, but then we're selective on human rights, we're selective on certain things. So we're very good of highlighting the oppression of Taliban against the women and children in Afghanistan, but we ignore the women and children in Gaza.
In Gaza.
We're very good at highlighting the issues about the children being blown up by Russia in Ukraine, but we don't mention the children being blown up in Gaza.
There's duplicity.
So this
there,
type of selective human rights is very much discriminatory.
Well, I mean, that's what many people have described, that, you know, there's a deliberate attempt to discriminate against certain groups. I mean, the reasons being provided by our government and governments around the world is that in Gaza it's different because it's Hamas, which is, you know, has been prescribed as a terrorist organization.
Yeah, but who subscribes it? See, again, it comes back to my point.
Exactly. I mean,
it comes back to my point. Who subscribes it?
Yeah.
If the other people are subscribing it, I mean, Nelson Mandela was subscribed as terrorist.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so we have to be very realistic of it, saying, you know, people who are defending their land and you making them into terrorists.
Yes. I mean, I remember Nelson Mandela, as the first trip he made to the UK, and on the first day after he landed at night, I was invited to go and see him early in the morning with a group of 20 of us, and he, you know, it was one of the greatest honors of my life. That, you know, as soon as he landed, the very next morning at 7 o'clock, I had to be in London if I wanted to meet him, which I did. And I remember on that day, Mrs. Thatcher making a comment, because Nelson Mandela said that he would like to meet the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom if he can, and she made a comment that I do not meet with terrorists. Right? It was her description, and he was a freedom fighter. The whole world accepted him as a freedom fighter. Yet again, you know, the point that you made, who prescribed Hamas as a terrorist organization? Yeah. My understanding is that they went through a proper monitored, fair and free election, and when Hamas was a political party, when they won, because the Western governments did not like the idea of Hamas securing the greatest votes, they then prescribed them as a terrorist organization. That's my understanding. If anybody's got a different view, I'd be happy for you to share it with us and discuss it, because if you look at the history of the elections, that is what most people understand, that is what happened. And this is, you know, as I say, these are my views, and that's how I understand it as well. So if you want, you know, whatever your thoughts are, we have a very short time left. But Maqsood, coming back, our community, we have the economic might that we have. You know, I know the Friends of Aqsa people are saying one of the easiest way to try and sort of win the argument is by using our economic might to influence what is happening in Palestine and Gaza. And I come back to this issue about boycott. I mean, the American students have started a boycott campaign.
Yes, they have.
Right?
And the French have started it. The Europeans have started it. You know, we've started it here, and lots of people have started it. And
but the Muslim community, going back again, is not really engaged with that. Do you think, and this is why I mentioned the mosques earlier, do you think our mosque and our imams now need to do what the churches did with South Africa?
Absolutely. You know, if the mosques aren't fighting for fairness and justice for all, then who will? You know, our religion actually encourages us to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. That's why most of the Muslims and non-Muslims and Christians and Jewish people who have got a lot of respect for, who go on the marches every week.
Oh yeah, there's many Jewish people. Yes.
Many Jewish people go on the marches and they get criticized. They are the ones actually who are also putting themselves on the line and front line. And they need to be recognized. It needs to be recognized. So this is not just a Muslim issue, it's a human rights issue where we've got Christians, Jewish and others who are actually coming on board to do that. And the Muslim community just needs to get more consciousness, and the mosque has to increase that consciousness. And that's the issue for us. The mosque is not doing enough to get that messages across there.
Okay, so that, I mean, that is a message, you know, I would like to send, that Maqsood has just said, which is that our imams now need to take the same stance that many church leaders did when there was issue about South Africa and the boycott and the apartheid that was going on over there. I hope you've enjoyed the program. I certainly did. I enjoyed the discussion, the debate, and, and the points raised by my friend Maqsood. In the meantime, I'm going to have to say goodbye. Take care. May Allah be with you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.